I mean, how much are those things?
I wouldn't think very expensive, but I've never been in the market before.
I would agree. Go to like a thrift store or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome to the podcast. Back for another rousing game of chess.
Yeah, thanks for having me on
You're welcome.
the podcast.
Well, I just wanted to make you feel at home, even though I'm at your home, and destroy you in a game of chess.
We will see what happens. You did win the last game.
Mm-hmm. We didn't catch it on camera though.
No,
I didn't want to hurt your feelings, so
No, but I will admit you won.
that's all that matters.
But so while we're playing,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
we were going to talk about Anthem.
Oh, yes. Anthem. I really enjoyed that book. I know it's by Ayn Rand,
Mm-hmm.
and really, the last like 20 pages of that book, they hit harder than like any other book, really, honestly.
You should try out 1984.
Really.
1984, yeah, the ending of that. It's a slow burn, that book,
Mhm.
but the ending of it, oh my God.
I wouldn't mind giving it a shot. I've definitely heard a lot about it recently. A lot of people talking about it, just being like, as my friend Nick was telling me about it, saying how it's very odd how a lot of the predictions that he had in that book are coming true in some form or another,
Mm-hmm.
in today's age. And I was like, don't doubt it. I hear it's an odd world. I was hoping you wouldn't do that. But I really liked the I mean, it's not really that much of a spoiler. It doesn't really matter. But the parts where he's talking about like the we and the I,
Mm-hmm.
and the importance of the word I, especially,
Right.
and how like, man kind of falls off of their kind of like their place in the world almost when humans lose the sanctity or the value of the individual.
Mm-hmm.
At
And
least
so
that's how I took it.
I know a lot of people do not like Ayn Rand. And I can understand why off the bat. She talks about in a lot of her work the virtue of selfishness. So he puts a lot of emphasis on the individual over the collective.
Yeah.
And I can understand how, at first glance, and maybe even if you do dig into it, that can seem kind of contradictory to what a lot of what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
You always preach compassion and treating other people the way you would want to be treated,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's just sort of a misunderstanding of Ayn Rand and the way that she is using the idea of selfishness.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so first off I want to hit the treat others as you would want to be treated. Like I think that's more of a meditation on like legitimately telling the truth to people, and being honest. Like a lot of people look at that and say, well, you got to be nice to one another. It's a really harsh world, so we should be nice to everybody. I don't think that's what they were intending that to be understood as when they wrote those lines. I think what they were trying to get the point across was that you have to treat yourself like a kid almost. You have to treat yourself as if you don't know what's like right and wrong for yourself. So you have to treat yourself overly careful. And you have to be very critical of yourself and of others, because people tend to make the easy choice and not necessarily the right choice. And like you don't have to voice those critical opinions,
Mm-hmm.
but I definitely think you should be aware of what's going on, of like what people are doing around you. And then you have to be truthful with yourself and being like, okay, this is good or this is bad.
Yeah.
and go from there.
You do definitely still have to be aware of what other people around you are doing and trying to do. The idea of selfishness that Ayn Rand is talking about, I don't think is
Yeah,
the traditional use of the word selfishness. It doesn't have to do with disregarding other people's goals and other people's ambitions and other people's emotions just for your own gain,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or taking advantage of other people for your own gain. I don't think that's what she's talking about, which is what a lot of people think about when they hear the word selfishness.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that what she's
I moved my bishop, by the way.
gotcha. I was hoping.
I was hoping.
That
I
pawn.
thought about it,
Mhm.
and then I was like, you know what?
Oh,
That'd be a
also,
poor decision.
Well, sometime soon, possibly next time, we will have a board game.
Ooh, yes, a board cam
So we can
overlay.
you guys can see what's going on the board.
Kind of like we can see, but probably not as good because we're chess masters. Well, I am. I don't know about Seth, but
Yeah, well, I'll keep bringing up the record until I'm not ahead.
that's fair. I should probably stop talking.
But, so you moved your bishop.
I
Okay.
did move my bishop.
So,
But
her idea of selfishness, right, is obviously knowing and being aware of the things that you want and what's best for you,
Mm-hmm.
and doing that
Yeah.
without intruding on and still respecting other people's right to do the same.
Yeah, that's a better way of putting what I was trying to say. Because, like, you gotta. That's something, like, I realized within myself is, like, I have a hierarchy system, like, with my friends, and it's like, I want to be the person that they hang out with and, like, always have, or at least I used to be, always have the, like, be their number one option, you know what I mean? But then I wouldn't give them, but then I still wanted to have the fluidity to make any plan I wanted to make with any person I wanted to make. But then if if their schedule wasn't opened, I'd kind of be like, oh man, like really, like what the heck, And so like that, I realized that I was doing that with multiple people in my life. I was just like, oh, you got to be selfish to like what you're talking about, and realizing what's good for yourself, and realizing in yourself that you have selfish intentions and that other people also have those selfish intentions, and that just like yourself, or just like myself, I should say, they should be allowed to pursue those selfish intentions, to fully understand themselves as an individual.
Yes. You should know where your motives and your aspirations are coming from.
And where they stem from. And
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
a lot of people, well,
It shouldn't be a mystery.
with
you know?
myself, I have a difficult time necessarily knowing and fully understanding where my ideas and emotions come from, because I'm a very contradictory thinker. You know what I mean? Like a lot of things, I will say one thing and then the next day or 3 days down the line, like I'll say something and I'll really mean it, and it'll be like very conflict to what I said earlier, and I won't even recognize it. Won't even realize that I'm speaking in a contradictory manner. Yeah, contradictory manner. And so I'm trying to figure out where those thought processes come from, where the contradictions in my own talking patterns, if it's just a pattern of speech that's causing the conflict, or if it is my actual thought process.
So that's an interesting question then. How much do you think your pattern of speech affects your thought process?
Well, so just
or
like,
do you think it's an opposite relationship? Do you think your thought process affects your pattern of speech?
I think it's most likely that, because thoughts kind of come first. At least in my mind, I feel like thoughts come first, and then my actions stem from that. So like in the How to Change Your Mind with Psychedelics with Michael Pollan,
Which we will hopefully talk about in a future podcast.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of like a aspect that they kind of talk about is the ability of the mind to kind of like filter and get stuck into routine responses.
Oh yeah.
It's fairly early on in the book, and so I think that the mind gets stuck in routine thought processes, and then therefore the manifestation of that in the world is a routine pattern of speech, and then that pattern of speech reinforces the thought process. That's what I think is happening with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the case, then I have to take control of my thoughts, and then I can control the pattern of speech, and
Right.
hopefully break it. But who knows?
Yeah.
I do think it's really interesting.
I thought that was interesting, that part of the book,
Mhm.
actually,
Yeah.
because when he was talking about that, he was talking about how that's not the move I wanted you to make.
Well, that's the move I wanted to make because, never mind. Like I said, I'm done talking smack.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get why you did it.
Fool.
Um,
Fool. Playing mind games. Sorry, but you thought the interesting part of the book was?
was that same part, but he mentioned how
I don't want you to make that.
we get stuck in those routines
Mhm.
and we sort of fall back on these mental if-then trees, these mental processes that we've developed to get through our very familiar everyday environment.
Yes.
We're almost on autopilot on a lot of this stuff,
Mhm.
and that the reason vacations are so good mentally and the reason you feel sort of like a new person when you get back and you feel
Mhm.
really conscious and aware on vacation is because you're in a new environment and you can't fall back on those same
Mm.
constructed thought patterns
Yeah.
to get through your day, because you're in a new environment and you can't just go on autopilot like you did before.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, honestly. The
And so
Sorry.
Ayn Rand, I believe, is misunderstood a bit. And speaking of misunderstandings, what we were talking about before with science compared to other forms of ideologies,
Yes.
how do you think in the book? So in the book, they regressed tremendously in their scientific advancements.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you think that happened?
Yeah, that's a very interesting part of the book, or like aspect of it.
What are you trying to do here?
Bro, I don't know how much you figure it out.
I
But anyway, so what I think happened there, well, it's very similar to like what the Catholic Church kind of did after the collapse of the Roman Empire and so on and so forth, where if you can control the means of education, then you can control where the thoughts of that nation will go. You know what I mean? And so,
So you think that it was on purpose?
yeah, I would imagine. I mean, to me, that whole story seemed as if it was a like meditation on what people are willing to do to maintain control over a population.
Would you be able to describe quickly? Well,
Yeah.
whose turn is it? My turn or your turn?
It's my
It's
turn.
your turn. Okay, I'll describe.
Yeah.
So the situation with the science is that
Yeah, go ahead.
they do not do any form of modern research. They don't have any form of modern technologies. Anthem is a dystopian in a town that's in the future, but technologically regressed probably 1,000 or more years.
Yeah, I mean,
More than 1,000 years, probably, because they talk about how they just invented a candle a century ago.
Yeah, honestly.
They invented
yeah.
a candle
Yeah,
a century
I forgot
ago, and
about that one,
he's talking about how that's like a pretty recent discovery.
And like that was the last thing that the House of Scholars had invented.
Yeah, talking about how slow moving it is.
Right. That was one thing that really interested me was the rate at which the society evolved. It was at a snail's pace, and it was because everything was codependent. It was like if the thought wasn't for the brothers, as they
Yeah.
put it, then it wasn't a good thought. If you didn't share that thought with every single person in the city, then it wasn't a good or valid thought to
Yeah.
have.
And think about this. What is the main driving force of a lot of our advances in scientific fields? And I don't
It's
want to be a proponent of great man history, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it seems to be brilliant individuals that come around once every generation or every couple generations.
I mean, well, that's the
Your
Renaissance.
Einstein, your Stephen Hawking, your
Hmm.
Newton, your
Michelangelo.
Maxwell.
Hmm.
Yeah, like all
Da
those
Vinci.
people
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
were cornerstones for advances in their fields.
yeah.
And so when you can't have an individual speaking up, going against what the group is saying, then you can't have those individuals blossom out of that society.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, innovation breeds inequality. Um, it's harsh to say it, but I mean, it's just like that's natural. You can't have progress without some form or gradient of success being formed there.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're moving forward, then you know where backwards was, you know. And if someone's ahead of you, then you have a uh, an image or a judge to compare yourself to. It's not necessarily that they are actively judging you, but just the image upon which that you can compare yourself to can be a harsh enough judge. Most people manifest their own hell in front of their life, like on their day to day.
Mm-hmm.
If they try hard enough, like they have that ability, just like they have the ability to manifest their own heaven, um, in front of them. I think if they really try hard enough, I suppose. But like you can make the world an absolute hellhole and really suffer. I moved my bishop here, by the way. I don't know. Have you
I
moved?
have moved, yeah.
What did
So
you
I
do?
moved my pawn up.
That's right. I saw
Maybe I
that.
should have told you.
No, I saw that. I saw that. I
Okay.
saw that. I knew that's what you did.
So you said you liked the end of the book.
I love
So
it.
yeah, let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. So the end of the book with them, so really it kind of like kicks off like he discovers the light bulb, like he understands what the light bulb is, and he's like, I'm gonna show the House of Scholars. Keep in mind the last invention was a century ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a candle. And anyway,
Yeah, so you got to think, what is this House of Scholars doing?
right? Like for real, like he's very optimistic. He's very much like, well, the House of Scholars with us together, I can really help change this world, and we can make the world a better place. And which I thought was nice. It was a really cool thought process. But as soon as he got there, uh, the scholars were kind of like just like in disbelief, and then kind of like
It did not turn out how we
did
wanted
not
it
turn
to
out
or
at all.
imagined it to.
Unimagined, and he immediately got like kind of like disdain and told him like, well, this thought process was by yourself. It's sinful. It's illegal. It's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And he essentially came to the realization that he's like, well, if this is illegal thought, if this is sinful thought, I don't want to be a part of society. I don't want to be a part of the sin, or I don't want to be a part of natural of yeah. I don't want to be a part of this type of society. Is essentially what he was saying.
Right.
Which I understand that.
And so at the end of the book, and so we said, I don't want to be part of this.
And
He
escaped.
gets 50016 with the beautiful blonde hair. And the
Oh
legs.
yes.
I don't know
yes.
what her actual number was.
The golden one
Mm-hmm.
is what he calls
The
her.
golden one. And they get out of there.
They do. Well, he gets out of there, and the golden one kind of follows him,
Right. Uh-huh.
like the day after, and he's like, "What the heck are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, we go where you go." He's like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool."
And that's another interesting point. The whole book, they're referring to themselves as we.
Yeah, and that kind of got me thinking on the whole idea of the we versus the I sort of deal. The we versus the collective. Well, if I do that, then you just still yeah. Anyway, sorry. The whole we versus the collective and the I,
Uh-huh.
and then they find this house out in really in like the middle of nowhere. It seems like I don't know if they're in America, if they were living in America when the whole dystopian thing went down. Um, it sounds like they'd be in the Rocky Mountains somewhere in there,
Mm-hmm.
but because this is just like a lone house in on the middle of the mountains, and has loads of books for them to read.
Yeah, it reminds me of the sort of house at the beginning of The Last of Us.
Of
Two.
the
The
Last of Us
Last of Us
2.
2, yeah. You know, where, you know what I'm talking about?
There's a lot of
Where Abby
yeah. Are you
and
talking about
her,
like where the gang
Abby
is
and her
at?
team,
Yeah,
yeah.
where there's the
There's
bunch of crawlers and stuff
where the thing
outside the big
happens.
fence. Yeah, where the thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that shall not be mentioned. Yes,
Uh-huh.
I got
Mm-hmm.
you. I understand. Yes, very similar to that house, I would agree. And essentially, they find through reading, he's able to learn again the meaning and manifestation of the word I, and the strength that the individual that I holds.
Right.
Which I thought was really interesting, because the society was able to take the meaning of a word away from them. You know, like they were literally able to take away the whole notion and idea of a self.
Which is also very much like 1984, because in 1984, it's all about the state, the government controlling everything, even people's thoughts. And the way that they control people's thoughts is through the vocabulary that they use, is through changing the word. So there's a whole department that comes up with newspeak, is what they call it. And get rid of negative words.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's just like the path that we tend to go down, because it's like language is a very, very powerful thing, and the old adage.
You saw my move?
I did.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it.
Take your time.
The old adage, like, you know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me, or something like that.
Well, words really, you know, they say that,
Exactly.
meaning like words aren't like physical. They're like,
But
you
they can
should be
tear
able
you
to get
down
over
the
'em.
most.
Yes, words are the attacks on your mental realm, your mental
Exactly.
body.
And that's almost more important in terms of sanity.
And that takes time to heal, just
Mhm.
like your physical body does.
Absolutely. The idea is, though, is to, just like the physical body, not to retreat into overwhelming protection, but rather to charge forward and to callous the mind, callous the body, and through hard work, you know, like, just get to the point where you withstand those mental and physical, those word attacks, and get to the point where you're able to withstand the mental attacks, as well as, oh, daggone it, I should have done the other one. Anyway, the physical attacks and mental attacks.
Right.
Because if you just try and protect people, it's just generation after generation, you get weaker and weaker and weaker. And then slowly over time, it seems like the people kind of like forget, once again, the value of the position that they're in. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people take America for granted, for, even though without it, it would be like we wouldn't have a bastion of freedom and free will if we haven't held out for as long as we have. You know what I mean? Because, like,
Right.
we're kind of like a experimental country in terms of free speech and the amount of input that we give individuals in society, at least in my opinion. You know what? I'll do this number. And that kind of was getting to my point that I was talking to you about. Frick, I knew I didn't want to do that.
Your point about
It was about man, that move kind of bothered me. It was about So the spirit of the collective and the spirit of the individual,
Mm-hmm.
and like the possibility of like that really never dying, that never going away, and that the like that fire just goes elsewhere, and that the spirit of the individual goes to, for instance, another country, or it just
You
goes
might want to
to,
pick it up a little bit more.
maybe, I don't know. I feel like I keep like bending down a little bit, like crouching,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pick it up a little bit.
Hey, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. But like the spirit of the individual goes to a different location, a different locale, and just like kind of like the spirit of the collective.
So you
goes
think
to,
that spirit is still there? The spirit of the individual,
Yeah,
just
so, like,
misplaced maybe, or
yeah, so like kind of like in the way of Zen, when he's talking about like energy is like really what we have a problem is like the not manifestation, but the categorization of the energy,
Mhm.
which is like completely counter to what Zen kind of is about. Zen's more about like a you know what? Screw it. I'll do this. Is more about you answer the question through
Yeah, that wasn't the move I wanted you to make.
yeah, I figured. But what am I trying to say? You don't
Actually,
categorize the world. Like the way that you make sense of the world is not through categorization, but rather through just accepting it for what it is.
mhm.
And but I will say, I think to the point that Zen makes in saying that a lot of suffering stems from a categorization, I think it also stems from like just a wrong categorization. You know what I mean? Maybe the energy
So you think
isn't.
there are correct categorizations?
I mean, I think if you're going to live in a world in which categorizations are going to exist, yes, there are correct ones, and yes, there are wrong ones.
Okay. Are you saying that just because it's easier to live in a world with categorizations if you think that way, or?
I'm saying that for my own self, yeah. Like I would say, like trying to live in a world where I don't make categorizations is very difficult for me, especially at this age.
Yeah,
And I
that's why
need
Zen's difficult.
exactly, and for me, at least right now, I need
Or these mic stands are falling apart.
right. I keep. They don't like to move too much, Like if you.
No,
if
we
you
need
just-
something fluid. I
Yeah.
feel like there's going to be so much rattling in this.
Yeah, right. In this
I have
one,
complete confidence, though, that Austin can take that out.
Boss T with the gain and amplitude, figure it
Uh-huh.
out. Kill out that background music.
Hey, go ahead and take care of that one, too.
Yeah, take care of that, please. Anyway.
So it is your turn.
Yes, I was going to see, but then you go there, and then I go fucking there. And
Mm-hmm.
then
Oh, okay. So I am going to switch out the memory card on that camera.
Okay, gotcha. So can I still
Wait,
talk
is it
or
my
no?
turn?
Yeah, it is your turn.
Okay, I'll take my turn first.
Cool. So
Where'd you go?
I just castled, did a little
Oh,
castle
okay,
action.
okay.
Just a tad of a castle action.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough one.
That does something.
Does some stuff every now and again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're gonna live in a world with categorizations, then there are right ones and there are wrong ones. So there's kind of like bless you. The way I look at it, there's like
Oh man, thank you.
there's a couple like basic assumptions that you can make in the world,
Mhm.
So like one basic assumption is that there are no assumptions to be made.
Yeah, keep going. I'm gonna change this mic.
Okay, I gotcha.
This memory card.
That's fine.
You sound so different, by the way, without the headphones on.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like better or worse? How do I?
it's just different.
I would agree. It's a little weird with the double echo too, like with you talking and then you talking to my ear.
Mm-hmm.
But so living in a world with categorizations, you're gonna have a right and a wrong categorization, or you can live without. Oh, where was I going with that? Hmm.
Actually, I think we're good.
Okay.
I
Cool.
don't think it needed to be changed.
All right. Sweet. So I moved my knight up. By the way.
All right, you moved your knight up. Yeah, I really want to get a camcorder, so I don't have to worry about the clip length,
I feel that. I feel that.
which is why I love that camera over there,
Yeah.
because it doesn't have the clip length.
Yeah. That thing is nice.
Yeah.
But I do like the double camera setup. I definitely think that's the move. And then get the third one for the board, so that way people can kind of keep a lookout for what's going on.
The triple camera setup.
The
Exactly.
triple camera.
All right, so you moved your knight forward
I
to put
did.
pressure on my bishop.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's what you did.
I mean, yeah.
But, I mean, what stops me from
See, that's what I was thinking,
doing
right?
that now?
There's nothing really.
Mm-mm.
I mean, there was nothing that stopped you from doing that previously.
Except your queen would have.
Yeah, but I would never have made a trade.
Oh yeah, you would have made that trade. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't do that earlier. I guess I was just preoccupied.
It's all good. It happens. It happens. Gets the best of us. Guess what I'll do.
I'm paranoid about that thing because of last time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check on the other camera too to make sure it's still going.
I gotcha. Yeah. So what happened? Is that one good still? Like.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Okay.
I'm just saying last time, you know how
Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
there's not much footage of you.
Yeah. I'm moving there, by the way. That's where I'm moving. That's what I meant to move.
That one's still good. Still got another 2.5 hours on that memory card. Where'd you
Wow.
move?
So I moved my rook up to here. Right up at there.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Tell you what, not a fan of that. Not a huge fan of that.
it seems okay. I mean, I'm not gonna make that trade. You probably knew that.
Yeah. I had an idea.
So any other thoughts on Anthem?
So,
So why do you think the focus on the collective resulted in society losing so much?
Because I mean, it almost, from what I can tell, it doesn't seem like humans do things individually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't seem like we decide to do things for the benefit of the society on a regular basis. That seems like an evolutionary trait that we've picked up recently. Because if you would look at, like, so say you're Darwinistic and you believe, like, or maybe not Darwinistic, but you just believe in evolution, that we've evolved for very, very long time.
Yeah,
and
no,
that-
there are definitely evolutionary benefits of doing things for the group,
Yes.
to be accepted by the group, to be part of the group.
Absolutely.
You get protection, you get access to more resources.
Mm-hmm,
You have access to all that group's
Yes.
mates, to pick from one.
Yes. So, that being said, though, so with it already being established as a genetic benefit, um, it. But the telling is how long does that genetic benefit last for, and how effective, like, can that how effective that
Genetic
virtue.
benefit as in it benefits the passing of the genes.
The passing of the genes and the collective as a whole. So it's like it does help pass the genes on, but at what cost? Are they good genes? Are they the right genes to be passed on? Or are they just a mass of genes that are less effective, less efficient? This is pretty, not perhaps not my
Yeah, I
best
don't
way
know
of
if
talking
I
about
don't
it.
know if I'm the one to make that claim, you know.
I'm not saying I'm the one to make that claim either.
Yeah,
I'm merely
because
proposing.
who's to say we?
I'm merely proposing the question, and that and really merely a hypothesis, and that is that societies over time collapse and they entropy. They have a decay to them naturally. What causes that natural decay? Well, what makes up the society? Is it not humans? And so if humans cause that natural decay, what is the natural decay? Is it the quality and genetic code? Or is it just the principles being taught that are being passed down?
Maybe it's something more psychological in the culture as it progresses, as opposed to something genetic. I will say though, there have been other hominid species, all of which have died out except for us. So clearly we developed something that has been working
Yes.
for
Yes.
80,000 years.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I would agree. I would definitely. It does appear as if we've got some form, a little bit of a advantage. And that seems to be our, like, cooperation, you know? And this is as far as I can tell.
Mm-hmm. But talking about the warfare hypothesis, you could also make the argument that we developed a lot of what helped us succeed from warfare.
So warfare, I think, kind of like is the reason why we think in dichotomous relationships.
Oh,
Because we see the most
the group, the tribalistic think.
Because we see, like,
Us and them.
us and them, and we see brother and enemy fighting one another. So, like, a very similar, like in the military, you refer to your brothers in arms as like your legitimate brothers, and then you refer to the people on the other side that are practicing the same exact thing that yourself is practicing are considered the enemy, merely because of their position, and they do practice. Some enemies do practice like heinous things, but not for the most part. I've never been in war, but you see the best in people, but you also see the worst in people. And so I think that war has been a part of our society for so long, and that because of that, it has kind of ingrained itself in our thought process, like the dichotomous thought process.
Right, our cognitive systems.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Did you move, by the way? Yeah, you did.
I did.
You castled.
Mm-hmm.
You castled.
So yeah, the warfare hypothesis is really interesting, and I really want to read The Bicameral Mind and do a podcast on that.
I would agree.
Talk more about some evolutionary theory.
I would adore that. I really like evolutionary theory. It's I think it's interesting, honestly. Man, I'm down on a lot of material right now. Oh boy, why did I do that? That's not at all what I wanted to do. I mean, that is what I wanted to do, but it's not what I saw.
It's clearly what you wanted to do. You did it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I just wasn't thinking. Well, if I do, let's see here. If I pull down.
So I mentioned the misunderstanding I think people have with science and its processes
Mm-hmm.
earlier
Mm-hmm.
to lead into talking about Ayn Rand.
Mm-hmm.
But to talk about that some, we were talking about it earlier. And to open up, I think I would re-ask you, what do you think the difference is between science, if you do think there is a difference, between science and other ideological forms, like religion or politics or philosophy?
Yeah, because I think science, there is a difference because like science, it's like after like going for like an objective truth, going for like the objective meaning in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, like politics and like religion and things of that nature,
Other
other
ideologies.
ideologies
Or
are
I would say
not ideologies,
ideologies
but
as opposed to other ideologies.
I would say practices. Like science is like a practitioner of science is a scientist. A practitioner of religion is a devotee, is a
Okay.
religious person. So like I would say like practitioners. They're all just like science is going for the objective meaning in the world. Meanwhile, the other practitioners and the other practices are means of applying the objective truths that science is after, and you do
Do
need
you think
those.
that religion and politics often apply the truths that science finds?
I think that's a tough question. I think hmm. So I think that
Feel free to think while you take your turn.
mm-hmm.
I'll give you some time. It is your turn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this is it. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Because either way, I'm gonna.
So I think one difference would be the self-correcting nature of science and its process.
Yeah, so like that's where I would agree with you that is a difference in the two, and then I would say that I would also say that so if you yeah that okay. So I was saying, what was your question? Your question was
Do you think that religion and politics often
incorporate the objective truths that science
that
finds.
science discovers? Yes.
No, and I think religion and politics have been around longer than science, and that perhaps that's why we perpetuate history, and that's why history is cyclical, because religion and politics as well have a hard time of incorporating the objective truths because they have a hard time of changing with the times. That said, there are good subjective truths that religion, especially, I think politics is too man-made, too what's
I
that
see what you're
S word?
saying.
What's
We've
that?
tainted it.
Yeah, we've tainted it.
Secular.
You know? Secular. It's too secular for there to be a whole lot of true validity in it. Meanwhile, religion, I think, still holds a lot of subjective truths for an individual to be found on an individual subjective journey.
And then philosophy, how do you think that ties in?
Philosophy is a measure. It's the kind of like politics, but just more on the individual level, for finding subjective truths in the world and then trying to apply them and trying to incorporate a little bit of science in there. Similar to like with science, I think philosophy a little bit more is like pitting the one idea against another to truly distinguish whether or not that idea is a good idea or not.
I think that they are both self-correcting, and I think that
I
they
should have done
both...
this earlier. Sorry. Just thinking out loud.
No problem.
Or if I go up. Yeah, I'll go there. Okay. Now you mix the shade. Okay.
I think that they're both self-correcting, science and philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they both, that analogy where you think of the truth as a horizontal line moving in time from left to right, and philosophical views and ideas and the current standing of science as you move, or as you're at towards the beginning of time or very far away from this line.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of different points because there are a bunch of different sprouting ideas of science and philosophy because they haven't been tested much.
Yeah.
And then as we move through time, you see fewer of those dots, and you also see them appearing closer to that line.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we're getting closer and closer to that truth, the objective truth, as we move through time.
That is the idea of, that's like the goal. I don't know. I've been thinking a little bit about that. Like, I don't know how much, like, so I don't know, like like, how do you know you get to that truth? Like, how do you know you get to the objective truth?
Well,
and then
with
another
science,
thing too
through
is like
rigorous testing and self-checking and
but it's also like science is yes, they're after a subjective goal or
I
objective.
wasn't even looking at the pond.
They are after objective goals, but they are in essence it's a man-made field. And it's a man-made
but we're not
field
researching anything man-made.
That's not true. Like pharmaceutical drugs and things like that. Like you're researching the applicability and the effective of things, and then
pharmaceutical drugs a very, very small part of one type of science. But if you take chemistry broadly, if you take physics broadly, if you take biology broadly,
I mean, like thermodynamics is the whole is internal combustion engine, and like that is.
Well, no, thermodynamics is just the exchange of heat from one thing to another.
Okay.
So that's a process that exists in nature and is one of the fundamental pillars of what holds together all of reality.
Yes.
So we're definitely searching for things very, very beyond us in science.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's still...
I would say the applications of that knowledge are man-made. Like the engineering that we get from physics.
Yeah, and
the drugs we get from chemistry.
And it's still a man-made... It's a human doing the calculations. It's true. The application of it is for humans' benefit.
That part is probably true.
Yeah, I mean.
Also, I would say a part of it is just to understand.
Benefit. And not even every human's benefit. Some science can be made and done for the benefit of solely the scientist.
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's what the Holocaust was. It was science for the sole benefit of the scientist.
Well, I would probably argue that nobody really benefited from that.
I bet Mandela liked, or who's the Mendeleev? Like I bet some of the Nazi scientists were enjoying themselves when they were doing those experiments. And some of those prison guards,
I guess that's possible,
were enjoying themselves when they were getting to tell people what to do. I mean, like there's and the thing is all of that was done in the name of good. Yeah, it's an interesting line that like Jordan Peterson was writing in 12 Rules. It was what people will do in the name of what evil things people will do in the name of good, or in the chase of doing well. All right, so don't like this.
I can't say it looks good.
Don't like this. Yeah, I just got too down on material too early.
Yeah, I was going to 100% take that trade for the queen.
Yeah, I should have known. Yeah, this is way too much. Way too down on material. But I mean, that's an interesting concept. The idea that like how much evil people are willing to do in the name of doing good. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people were complacent with going along with Jews going to the ghettos and then getting their businesses stripped away from them and this, that, and the other. And then finally being sent to the concentration camps. Like they were okay with that. And why were they okay with letting all those individuals go into the camps? You know what I mean? It's an it's, why were they okay with letting their neighbors go to the, getting all their rights and things stripped away from them,
Right.
What would cause an individual to be okay with that? And what it would be a slight, the worst economic stress in human history.
Mm-hmm.
Their inflation was quite crazy. But that's what it was. An economic stress was all it took for humanity to lose its ability to care about itself. So how does an entity gain that much power? The individual loses hope in itself. Like that's what happened in Nazi Germany. Like the individual had lost such power, so much of its own power, that they thought that it was impossible, that there was no end in sight. There was no means for them to take control of the situation. They had to relieve and remove themselves of responsibility in order to and like that's what is happening in Iran. Like they got so far, but perhaps they had such economic hardship that they were willing to give away their sanctity, to give away their freedom.
It's actually interesting talking about the use of science in Nazi Germany, because there was a lot of, absolutely gross misuse of science. And I'm not just talking about the human experiments done in the camps. I'm talking about research that Hitler and the state was having done, or not the state, the country was having done, to try and have a scientific backing for a lot of the claims they were making. And so they fraudulized, is that a word? A lot of scientific projects.
Yeah. Forged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Made fraudulent.
Yeah. A bunch of like scientific papers and scientific research.
Well, they were trying to actually do research, and then when they weren't finding evidence backing the superiority of the Germans, then they were just making it up.
I gotcha. I mean, yeah, that makes, and that's, again, like, they're doing, it's like, what are people willing to do in order to get a point across?
Mm-hmm. You cannot take that. I would like my beautiful queen.
It's nonsense. Why would you want that piece? I mean, it's not your turn, so.
Oh yeah, yeah. My bad, man.
That's all good, dude.
All right, that works out.
Oh, it doesn't.
Just
dude.
all right.
Stop. Stop. It's not okay. Not okay.
Whoops. E daisy.
Not okay, dude. Not okay. Not okay. Not okay. Not okay. Not okay. Frick. See, so like what I would think like the whole Adolf thing and like what happened in Nazi Germany kind of like plays a role into is like the idea that there is no like there's definitely good and bad in the world, but the
So we have about a minute and a half left on that camera. I can change out the memory card.
is it my turn?
It is your turn, I believe. Is it not?
No, I mean I think I moved here. Shit. All right, well let's just finish this. I'll think about the thought later.
Okay. Did you want to keep going or end it after this?
Nah, I mean, end it after this.
Oh fuck.
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Damn it.
Stalemate.
Oh, okay.
That's what I do. I get stalemates. But yeah, that was a good game, Seth. Definitely had me dead to rights, but catching dubs out here.
Fucking stalemate, man.
Night happens.
What the fuck? All right. Well, that's it. You'll see this in a couple months.
Yeah, most likely.
Whenever
right?
Austin finishes
When he gets the edit done.
yeah, when he starts editing audio.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Until next time.
So, what do you like? Yeah, you said it would be like dichotomy.